You are not alone. Now come with me.
The city was buried under a rare December snowstorm, streets deserted, headlights reflecting off the thick layers of white. Clara's apartment sat on the third floor of a crumbling building in a forgotten corner of the district. She hadn't slept properly in days. Her daughter Lily, barely 8, hadn't eaten in 5 days, her small body curled on a thin mattress, shivering under tattered blankets. Every whimper pierced Clara's heart like ice. She counted coins obsessively, 7 cents in her hand, praying it would stretch somehow. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the window panes. The neighbors had long since stopped asking questions. Life moved on for everyone else. For Clara, it was a countdown to despair. She had tried every avenue, charity kitchens, panhandling, pleading with indifferent store clerks, but nothing had worked. Lily's eyes, wide and haunted, stared at her silently, demanding the impossible: sustenance, warmth, hope. And then came a knock. Not the timid tapping of a neighbor, but decisive, commanding, the kind that made the air itself hold its breath. Clara hesitated, but the instinct to protect her daughter overcame fear. She shuffled to the door, gripping Lily close, and peeked through the peephole. The man outside was impeccably dressed, a tailored overcoat dusted with snow, a red scarf fluttering like a signal in the storm. His presence radiated authority and power, but there was something gentler in his eyes, a recognition of desperation and pain he had witnessed before. "I'm Jacob Callahan," he said, his voice calm but unwavering, "and I know you need help." Clara's hand tightened on the doorframe. Who are you?" "CEO of Callahan Industries," he replied. "I also happen to be a father. I know what it feels like when someone depends on you completely, and you're powerless. Pack your things. You're coming home." Clara blinked. Her daughter? She had never heard a word from anyone like this in her life. The storm outside didn't matter. She couldn't trust this stranger. Yet, something in his eyes, the way he looked at Lily, seeing her fragility without pity, made her nod. Minutes later, bundled against the cold, Clara and Lily followed Jacob through the snow-blanketed streets. He carried supplies, blankets, food, everything a small child and a weary mother might need after days of starvation. They reached a modern high-rise overlooking the city, lights twinkling like distant stars. The lobby was warm, elegant, secure. For the first time in days, Clara felt the sharp edge of fear dull. Inside, Jacob set Lily on a couch with a plush blanket and a steaming cup of milk. "Eat," he said gently. Lily hesitated, small hands trembling, but the hunger was stronger than her fear. She took the cup and sipped carefully, eyes still wary. Clara watched Jacob move through the apartment like a man used to command. Not arrogance, but precision. Why are you helping us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He paused, meeting her gaze. "Because someone once saved my daughter, because I know the cost of inaction, and because no child should be left to starve in a world that could protect her." The days passed in a blur. The snowstorm trapped them inside the penthouse. Lily began to eat properly, regaining color in her cheeks, while Clara slept in stolen hours, the relief almost too overwhelming to process. Jacob ensured they had everything: groceries, clothes, even toys. But more than material comfort, he offered structure and care. He read to Lily every evening, stories of adventure and courage, his voice steady and soothing. Clara observed quietly, realizing the little girl was opening up in ways she hadn't dared for months. "I think she likes you," Clara said one evening, watching Lily whisper to a soft horse figurine Jacob had brought for her. "I think she trusts me," Jacob replied, "which terrifies me a little, because trust is sacred, and I know what it feels like to fail someone who believes in you completely." Clara reached out, taking his hand. "You've saved her already." Jacob's eyes darkened with a memory he didn't voice. "Not entirely. I wasn't there for my own son when it mattered most. I can't make those mistakes again." The city outside raged on with the storm, but inside, warmth grew. Bonds were forming in the quiet moments. Lily sleeping under a thick blanket, Clara resting with her head on the couch, and Jacob standing watch by the window, his gaze distant yet protective. But danger had a way of finding them, even here. 3 days into the storm, a shadow of the past crept into their sanctuary. Clara had noticed signs: broken locks, footprints in the snow, a window slightly ajar. And then it came, the sound of forced entry, shouts, and the unmistakable rattle of a gun. Clara scooped Lily into her arms, heart pounding. Jacob appeared beside her, a rifle in hand, calm but fierce, commanding and protecting. "They're here," he said quietly. "Stay behind me. We've prepared for this." The intruders were desperate men, chasing debts, grudges, and blood. But they hadn't accounted for a father who would protect a child at all costs. Jacob's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and precise. Leave. Now. You won't find what you're looking for. Gunfire cracked against the walls, but the apartment was designed to withstand threats. Hidden rooms, secure doors, and Jacob's meticulous planning turned the high-rise into a fortress. Clara and Lily retreated to a secret pantry behind the kitchen shelves, hearts hammering. Lily clung silently, her small hands wrapped around her mother's arm. Minutes or hours passed in tense silence. Clara dared not move. Each footstep above echoed like a drumbeat of terror. Then, finally, Jacob's voice. It's safe. You can come out. Clara opened the door. Jacob stood at the edge of the kitchen, bruised and bloodied, but alive. His eyes found hers, softening with relief and love. It's done, he said. They won't trouble you again. Clara didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. She only knew what mattered. They were safe. For now. The snowstorm raged outside, but inside, a fragile peace had been restored. And Clara realized, for the first time in weeks, that maybe hope could survive even in the harshest winter. And maybe, just maybe, a single father CEO could be more than a stranger. He could be a savior, a protector, and a beginning. The snowstorm outside showed no sign of relenting. The city streets were deserted, cars buried under mounds of white, and the wind whipped across rooftops like a living thing. Inside the penthouse, the glow from the windows painted the walls with streaks of pale gold and blue. But the warmth was fragile. Clara paced the kitchen floor. Lily perched on a stool with a half-eaten sandwich, while Jacob leaned against the counter, his arms crossed. They'll be back, Clara said quietly, her voice tight with unease. Jacob's eyes never left the window. Maybe, but they won't find you. Not here, not while I'm around. Clara watched him. He had transformed in these few days from a stranger into something formidable, yet human. The bruises on his face hadn't dimmed entirely, and his left arm still ached from a previous encounter. But he moved with the precision of a man used to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Lily tilted her head, small brows furrowed. Papa, she asked, will the bad men come again? Jacob's jaw tightened, then softened. If they do, we'll be ready. You trust me, right? Lily nodded with the certainty only a child possessed. I trust you. He gave a faint, grim smile. Good. That trust is everything. Never forget it. The next night brought the tension to a boiling point. A tip from a city informant had traced the attackers to a nearby warehouse, just 3 blocks away. Jacob didn't wait for the police. He never did. He had always relied on speed, intelligence, and instinct. With a few close allies, including one of his personal security leads, Hank, they prepared for the confrontation. Clara begged him to let the law handle it. Jacob, the police will... They won't, he interrupted, voice low but firm. They didn't before and they won't now. If I don't stop this tonight, someone else could get hurt. Someone innocent. Like Lily, Clara's throat closed. She wanted to argue, to beg, to plead. But deep down she knew he was right. He had saved them once. She trusted him to do it again. The streets outside were a frozen blur as Jacob and his team moved through, the city under cover of night. Snow crunched under their boots, breaths puffing white in the cold. They approached the warehouse, the shadows shifting ominously beneath the flickering streetlights. Inside, muffled voices, crates scraping the concrete floor, and the faint metallic scent of weapons told Jacob exactly what he was facing. Remember, he whispered to his team, we take no risks with civilians. We go in, get them, and get out. No mistakes. Not tonight. Clara watched from a distance, hidden safely in the car with Hank and one other trusted ally. Lily slept in the back seat, wrapped in blankets, unaware of the storm outside. She gripped the edge of the seat tightly, heart pounding, praying silently that Jacob would return unscathed. Inside the warehouse, chaos erupted almost immediately. Jacob moved like a shadow ducking behind crates, disarming 2 men with precise blows, and using the environment to his advantage. His team followed his lead, neutralizing threats with minimal noise. Every second felt eternal. Clara clenched her hands, whispering prayers under her breath. Then came the moment she had feared. The leader, Briggs, appeared. His eyes were cold, calculating, and his hand rested on a gun. He smirked as he saw Jacob. I should have known you'd follow, he said. Jacob's expression didn't falter. I'm not here to talk, he said. I'm here to end this. The confrontation was swift, brutal, and decisive. Jacob's movements were precise, honed by years of experience and loss. He disarmed Briggs, forced him to the ground, and pinned him with a strength that belied his injuries. Briggs struggled, cursed and spat threats. But the moment had passed. The attackers who weren't restrained surrendered quickly once they saw their leader captured. Clara couldn't breathe until she heard the call. "It's over," Jacob said over the radio, voice calm but carrying the weight of the night. Back at the penthouse, she ran to the door the moment she heard from Hank. Jacob arrived hours later, exhausted, bloodied but victorious. The snow had stopped, leaving the city gleaming under a cold moonlight. He limped into the lobby, carrying his coat and removing his gloves. His face streaked with blood and sweat, but his eyes shining. Clara rushed to him, grabbing his shoulders. "Jacob, you're alive!" "I promised," he said simply, a faint smile breaking through. He kissed her forehead, then ruffled Lily's hair as she appeared from her room, eyes wide with awe. "See? Papa keeps promises." Lily's small hand found his, gripping tightly. "I knew you would come back." Jacob knelt, holding both Clara and Lily close. "Always. I will always come back for you." They entered the warmth of the penthouse, and for the first time in days, Clara felt relief wash over her. The storm outside had passed, the danger neutralized, and the fragility of their lives was temporarily secured. Yet even in this brief moment of peace, Jacob knew something important. The world was harsh, but family, trust, and courage were stronger than any storm or threat. Clara looked at him differently now. He wasn't just the man who had saved them. He was a protector, a father, and perhaps the person she could finally trust completely. As the night stretched on, Jacob sat with Lily, reading her bedtime stories. While Clara prepared a simple dinner, they talked quietly, sharing hopes, fears, and laughter. The kind of laughter that cracks tension like sunlight through clouds. Clara realized she had begun to lean on Jacob in ways she hadn't allowed herself to in years. "You saved her," she said softly, glancing at Lily sleeping peacefully. "And me." Jacob's expression softened. "We saved each other," he replied. "It's never just one person. Trust, hope, love. It's shared. That's what keeps people alive." The snow had stopped outside, leaving the city silent but sparkling under streetlights. Clara pressed her forehead to Jacob's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in days, she felt the kind of calm that comes only when you know someone is there, fully present, fully committed. In that penthouse, in the heart of the city buried under winter's white, Clara and her daughter were safe. The night, the storm, and the shadows had come and gone, and for the first time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of a new life, one built on courage, love, and promises kept. The morning after the confrontation, the city seemed almost surreal. Snow still clung to rooftops and sidewalks glistening under the pale winter sun. The streets were quieter now, the chaos of the storm and the previous night's danger replaced with a fragile calm. Clara stood by the window, watching Lily run through the snow in her small boots, building a snowman under the careful supervision of Hank, who had insisted on coming over despite his protestations that snow was bad. For the bones, Jacob leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, his bruised face still visible but softened by sleep and relief. His left arm hung loosely at his side, a reminder of the battle from the night before, but he moved with a sense of calm and purpose. "You okay?" Clara asked, stepping toward him. He gave a small shrug. "I'm alive. That's enough for now. How are you?" "Better," she admitted, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Thanks to you." He didn't respond with words immediately. Instead, he walked to the window, peering at the city below. Then he looked back at her, eyes steady. "We did it. We kept her safe. That's all that matters." Clara's gaze drifted to Lily, who was laughing as she packed snow into a mound, carefully shaping it with her tiny hands. The girl had faced so much fear and hunger, yet here she was, alive, playful, full of joy. Clara's chest ached with gratitude. She had started this journey with nothing, her daughter barely surviving, her apartment cold and empty, and now they had a protector, a home, and a future. Jacob walked over and crouched beside Lily. "Hey, snow artist," he said gently. "Can I help?" Lily's face lit up. "Yes, you can put the carrot on the snowman's face." She handed him the carrot, eyes gleaming with excitement. Jacob carefully placed it, stepping back to admire their joint creation. Clara watched them, her heart swelling. This man, once a stranger, a powerful CEO with burdens of his own, had become their anchor, their protector, their family. Hank cleared his throat, grumbling as he watched the scene unfold. "You two make a mess, but it's a fine sight," he said. his eyes misting slightly despite his usual tough demeanor. Fine sight indeed. Later that day, Jacob and Clara sat at the small dining table in the penthouse kitchen, steaming cups of coffee warming their hands. The tension from the previous nights had faded into a quiet, reflective peace. I still can't believe you went after them yourself, Clara admitted softly. Jacob shrugged, lips curved in a faint smile. Someone had to. Someone had to make sure you and Lily were safe. And I'm not going to pretend the law always gets it right. I've learned that the hard way. Clara reached out, taking his hand. I know, and I trust you. Fully. More than I've trusted anyone in years. His eyes softened. That's a lot of trust. Scary, even. But I won't waste it. I promise. Lily's small voice interrupted them from the living room.
Mama, Papa!
Come see. They followed her to the living room, where she had set up a small display of the snowman's parts, bringing the outside inside. Look, he has a carrot nose and button eyes. Jacob crouched down beside her. He's perfect. Just like his builders. Clara smiled, crouching as well. You're a perfect builder too, Lily, and brave, always brave. The day passed with quiet laughter, baking cookies, and snowball fights in the penthouse courtyard. Each moment felt like a balm, healing the raw edges of fear and uncertainty. Clara found herself noticing little things, the way Jacob's voice softened. When he spoke to Lily, the small, careful gestures when he handed her cookies or tucked her into a blanket. He had been a savior, yes, but he was also becoming the father Lily deserved, the man she could finally trust without hesitation. As evening approached, the snow had stopped entirely, leaving the city bathed in a gentle blue twilight. Clara stepped out onto the balcony, feeling the crisp air on her cheeks. Jacob joined her silently, his coat pulled tightly around him. Beautiful, isn't it? He said softly, gesturing to the cityscape. Clara nodded, eyes tracing the snow-dusted skyline. Yes, it feels peaceful, safe. He looked at her, and for a long moment neither spoke. Then he took her hands in his, their fingers intertwining. Clara, he began, voice steady but low. I know the world hasn't always been fair to you or Lily, but I want you both to know. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever. You and Lily. You're my family. Clara's chest tightened with emotion. Jacob, she whispered, tears threatening. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm so grateful. He pressed his forehead gently to hers. You showed up when it mattered most. You didn't give up. That's bravery, Clara. That's why I'm here. That's why I fight for you. Lily's small voice echoed from the balcony door. Mama, Papa, come see. Snowflakes in the city looked like stars. They stepped back inside, and for a long time, the three of them, mother, daughter, and the man who had become father, stood together, watching the sky and marveling at the beauty of life in the simplest, quietest moments. Days turned into weeks. The city gradually returned to normal. Streets cleared, businesses reopening, life resuming its rhythm. Clara and Lily settled into a safe routine. Jacob, still balancing his corporate responsibilities with the role he now embraced fully, protector and parent. Then came the day Clara realized something truly miraculous. Sitting at the kitchen table, Lily asked, Mama, is Papa going to teach me everything about life? Clara smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze Jacob's hand. Yes, she said softly. Everything. He already has. Jacob's grin widened. And you'll teach me too, Lily. I've got a lot to learn from you. Lily laughed, the sound ringing like bells in the warm apartment. It was the kind of laughter that cleared away fear and grief. Clara realized in that moment that they had built something unshakable, something stronger than snowstorms, threats, or fear. They had built a family. Winter faded into spring, and the city's harshness softened. With warmer light and green buds pushing through the pavements, Clara watched Jacob with Lily, marveling at the ease with which they moved together. A small, resilient family. She thought of the dark nights, the fear, the hunger, and the uncertainty of that December just months ago, and she realized that life had a way of rewarding those who refused to give up. Lily ran to Jacob, grabbing his hand. Papa, let's go outside. Samuel Daniel's going to see the snow too. Clara smiled, the name rolling off her tongue with tenderness. Their new life, their baby soon to arrive, their daughter thriving. It was all real, tangible, safe. Jacob caught Lily in his arms, spinning her with laughter, then glanced at Clara. His eyes were clear, full of love and promise. We did it, he whispered. Yes, she replied, pressing a hand to her belly. We really did. Yes, she replied, pressing a hand to her belly. We really did. And in the snow-covered city, amidst the glittering lights and the quiet streets, they held onto each other, bound by courage, love, and promises kept. For Clara, for Lily, and for the family they were building, this was the moment that made every hardship, every moment of fear, worth it. Jacob wrapped his arms around Clara, pulling her close, and together with Lily, they watched the city sparkle under the winter sun. They had survived. They had found hope. And above all, they had each other.